coaster game for sure. The emotions right up and down, and needing to come through in clutch moments. So I'm glad we can learn from a win. It's the best way to do it. I was beating myself up on that last drive. Our defense did a great job, of course, of holding them. I got a missed field goal, but I got a couple chances there to end it. I got to take advantage of my opportunity to end that game, and so I'm excited to go into this week and learn from that. I thought we had a lot of awesome plays, but it really comes down to that crunch time. The NFL's hard. Got to win that, and so I'm excited, but at the same time I'm beating myself up. So.
What's going on, Jets fans? Welcome into NYJ Today, episode 34. 34. We are rolling along here. We got James back. James, how are you doing, man? You are betrothed. It is a new and improved version of yourself. So tell us a little bit about the wedding, man. How did it all go?
The wedding was great. It was beautiful. Went as planned, but went by so fast, and I'm back. It's good to be back. I missed the Jets a little bit, but I did have a good time. So thanks for asking, and I'm glad to be back with you guys.
Absolutely. And honestly, you probably didn't miss, anything that you would have actually wanted to watch. You came back at a good time. So all is good. It was a rough go there, man. So I know you know this already, but we went to those two games, the Pats and the Broncos. Oh, and then did my Skype go out? You guys there? Am I?
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, okay, that's weird. The video cut out. That's strange. Well, I don't know how to fix that because I've never seen that before. Let's see. Let's just give it a second here. This is a technical glitch, but I'm pretty sure I can fix this. Let me hang up on you, John. You fine gentleman, and I'll call you right back. Because I do think that's the easiest way to fix that. Let's give that a shot. And we'll call Mikey back. Sorry, folks. Reboot. And Mike did not answer, so, that's about a status quo for him. We'll pick it up in just a second. I do apologize, everybody. Okay, Mike's not answering. That's pretty interesting. So we'll call James. James, we'll call him first. What is going on? James Wighouse. There he is. I'll call him first. All right, I got James. There he is. How's it going, man?
Yep.
All good. I don't know.
Me and Mike were in like some other kind of thing.
It's all good. I don't know what happened, but it doesn't matter. I got you. I'll wait. I tried calling him and he didn't answer, but I'll get him back on the line. No big deal. Indeed, Grant Rude. LOL. We will get to a couple of comments before I try to get Mike back on the line. So we've got Big Arms in the chat. We got Jets Gang in the chat. Carmelo El Bori's away. We got Grant Rude, of course. We've got Braden. We've got Vern, Hader Ali. He says, "What's up, John and Co? What up, Jets fighters? Should be interesting this evening." And honestly, it's going to be interesting, I think, from here on out. I think the Jets certainly had their growing pains, early on. And I'm not suggesting that they are done with their growing pains, but it seems like they are going to start making more plays on offense, especially, against the Titans, who were, not very good on defense, if that's, putting it mildly. And then the Falcons also struggling on offense. What are your thoughts in general on this, this past game with the offense starting to kickstart a little bit, and then this coming week where I think they're going to have more success, maybe even more?
Yeah, this past week, it was tough because it started out just like the first 3 weeks, and I was like, oh my God, we're
Mm-hmm.
gonna have to endure another one of these. And which was frustrating, probably more so this time around because we did know that the Titans defense just wasn't kind of formidable like we've seen in the past in terms of Carolina, Denver, and New England. And I was like, all right, well, we maybe could have blamed it on, the defense there. We kind of had a rough go the first 3 weeks, but then we have this defense where we could probably exploit a lot and we're not doing it. And then it came alive and probably roughly like middle of the second quarter through to the end of the game. So we're finally kind of reaching that point, and Mike LaFleur got better last game, so that's like a big positive. Other than the fact that he started off, it was like run pass, and it just wasn't kind of going well. So a ton of improvement from them. So it was kind of good, and I think we're going to see that more so what we saw in the second half. We're going to see on Sunday in London, so it's going to be fun.
Awesome. And I do remember reading that tweet from you. It is kind of frustrating to see that really like the old school football of run, pass, as you kind of pointed out. Mikey boy, thanks for answering the call. We talked a little bit about how the offense is kind of starting to get going a little bit, getting their feet wet now, 4 games in. And it seems like, maybe they won't be as explosive, consistently every week. Of course, I don't see that happening. But, just talk a little bit about the offense kind of getting, I guess, it feels like they just ripped the lid off, finally they got going. So why don't you talk a little bit about the offense getting going?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was like finally seeing what we felt like. If anyone's ever seen that Jack Black movie with where it's where only he can see like beautiful women and no one else can see them, it's kind of like what it felt like to be a Jet fan. Like, I mean, we had time. Obviously, had doubts, especially coming out of the Denver game, which me and John were there for. It was terrible. It was just good to know that those of us, who knew that we would see high points in the team and the talent in Zach. It came home that day, and it was good. It was just good. It was good motivation for those of us who were seeing the bleak winter coming our way again. I was really excited about that. I think that I would say that there were some things that I would say were inconsistent, and the running game was a big thing. I think that still needs a lot of work. I think Rob, Solid talked about that in the sense that we can't give up on the run, even when it's sluggish at times. I think we were under 70 yards rushing for the game. Now, comparing that to Derrick Henry mode at 100 or what he had, like 157 yards. Not everyone's Derrick Henry, but we do need that running game to be a little bit more dynamic, to take some of the pressure off the passing game. Those receivers, I mean, it was great to have Crowder. I listened to you, John, and Chad when you were Chad on the post game. And having Crowder back was such a huge breath of fresh air. And I got to admit, because I gave Crowder a lot of crap. So I was like, I was okay if we were to trade him. And thank goodness I'm not in the front office and they don't listen to me, because it was great to have Crowder back. And really adding something. I think it took a lot of pressure off Corey Davis and allowed Corey to do some of those big plays, which was fantastic. I think that's what Corey wants. I still think the other thing, I'm flip-flop between good things and bad things. It still sucks that we don't have a tight end game. We have no tight end presence on that field. So if I think of 2 areas where the offense really could use a lot of benefit, it'd be consistency on the run game. And then a tight end just to have another target for Zach. I really think that makes a big difference, or would make a big difference for us. I think Tyler Kroft has a back injury, so I don't think he's going to even play I don't think he's even going to travel to London. I could be wrong about that. So that leaves us Yeboah, I guess, is active for the game at that point. So I don't know.
He might play.
Yeah. So great to see the receivers really getting open. That was a big problem, especially when during the Denver game we had 3 running the same route. Zach not playing boring. I think that's one thing I think a lot of the big analysts are saying, and making big plays. That's what he likes to do. Was some of them kind of reckless at times? And did some of them look like he winged it and wasn't really a design play? Yeah, but I'll take what I can get. So it was exciting. It was an exciting game.
Alrighty. Good. We do have our, weekly mailbag, and we're going to kick it off with that. So first one tonight, I'm going to start with actually Zach. He totally dropped this for me. So, thanks to you, Zach Wilson. But if you look on his Instagram, he responded to a tweet, I believe, or an Instagram post from ESPN, and it said best throws, Zach Wilson. And he kind of gave a tip of the cap to his receivers, which I thought was pretty cool. Small little gesture. But again, it's leadership, man. It's a small thing, and some people are laughing at it like, oh, it's not a big deal, it's so corny or whatever. I don't see it that way. I think his receivers probably appreciate that. So I like that kind of stuff. So call me a sucker if you will, but that's what I am. Our first mailbag is from New Era Jets, and he actually left us a couple of really good ones, so I wanted to get to all of them. He said, since Marcus May's incident, do we draft another safety in next year's draft? I feel like May has been playing good, but we also won without him. If you're Joe Douglas, what do you do? Joe usually doesn't re-sign the older players. Do we maybe find a gem to pair with Ashton Davis? There's a lot to cover there. We can just kind of go through it a little bit at a time. Mike, I'm going to let you go first. What do you think, man? How do we address the safety position? What do we do with Marcus May? The legal troubles are pretty serious. Go for it.
Yeah, I think we have to. I think that still needs to be a big part. Obviously, that we're proving that point this year with some of the areas that we thought we were deep and just didn't pan out that way. Ashton's been hurt, I think, multiple times throughout the season so far. I could be wrong about that, but I feel like I've heard him pop up on the injury list that Robert's done after each week. Obviously, Marcus May.
He's not to cut you off. He's been hurt since training camp. He hasn't been. He just got healthy.
Right, but he was practicing, right? I think he was hurt. I think he's been in and out of even practice. I could be wrong about that, but yeah,
I do know. Keep going.
Right. Marcus is hurt, so not only do we have the legal issues, but he also has an ankle issue. So I feel like the writing's on the wall that it's in our best interest whether we start a rookie safety. And it doesn't have to be out of the draft. I think the draft makes the most sense. But I think we need depth at the safety position in both free safety and strong safety. And I also think that, we really don't know the way these corners are going to work out, in which case we don't really, what we're leaning on right now is our safety help right now with some of the most veterans that we have on the team. So I think no matter how this season pans out, we're going to need depth in those two positions and probably reevaluating some of the players that we have back there right now. Because, again, it's really early. We don't know how they're going to do. Some of them are playing great. I'm really impressed with how the secondary is reacting versus my negativity on that group. They played outstanding during the Titans game. I thought they did fantastic. I know we let up that score late in the game. I kind of am writing that off because I'm not going to let that diminish how they were playing for three of those quarters. But to me, I think that's already in the mix for us to grab the top safety in the draft, and I'm not surprised by that.
Okay, James, what's your take on Marcus May? Do you see us addressing it? I mean, I'm pretty sure we're going to address safety in the offseason. It's pretty obvious. There's not a lot there. So what are your thoughts on Marcus?
Yeah, so Marcus, I mean, obviously, unfortunately, he's got the ankle injury because you'd like to have him out there. He's a great player. And obviously now the legal situation, I'm not really going to talk about it too much. I don't know too much about it. And I think a lot of us probably don't in this terms of we don't know how it's actually going to turn out. But given the situation with the franchise tag, I don't see Joe Douglas paying him. I would probably actually be surprised if he's on the Jets next year. So you're going to have to address safety position. Ashton Davis, we don't know, kind of question mark. And it's just a matter of where we are in the draft, right? Because realistically, draft-wise, safeties have been falling as of late in terms of you see the Giants got a guy like Xavier McKinney at the top of the second round 2 years ago. And now this year, there's one guy that's not going to drop, and that's Kyle Hamilton, the safety for Notre Dame. He's a top 5 player in the draft, so unless we have a top 5 pick, we wouldn't have a chance to draft him. But I also don't know if Joe Douglas would go safety at that point in time, considering some of the other things we have if we have a top 5 pick. So I think Joe Douglas addresses it, and I think the way to address it is later on in the draft when you have all of these other picks, whether that's, the Carolina 4, maybe that's or the Carolina 2 also, depending on kind of how the board falls. But I think you address it in the draft. I just don't think it's going to be a first round type of answer in terms of where they go. I don't see Joe Douglas investing that kind of asset at that position, especially, and Mike made the point too, especially considering what this coaching staff defensively is doing with these kids in the secondary.
They're killing it.
And so when you think about it, when you think about it like that, it becomes the secondary becomes a secondary kind of need, I think, for what Joe Douglas decides to do in free agency. Is a LaMarcus Joyner, I know he's out this year, but is it another 1-year deal kind of thing on the table for him? And so they address it. I just don't see them addressing whether it's big money in free agency or a first round pick in the draft. Because there is one that obviously we'd all love to have. But I just don't think with the way this franchise is built right now, if we had that pick, it wouldn't be a safety. So definitely have to address it. But I think it's going to be something that's kind of pushed aside for other things.
I 100% agree. I don't see them spending a first or a second round pick on a safety. And I almost prefer, like you were kind of pointing out, the young players that are really doing quite well in this defensive scheme. I would almost rather they would just like double down again, like get another LaMarcus Joyner or re-sign him, as you said, invest another pick in another young secondary player that they feel like, has potential. We still have guys we haven't even seen, and that's the part that I want to save for later. We have so many guys that we like that we've seen play this year, but there's guys that we haven't seen play a whole lot this year. Isaiah Dunn is still on this roster, only played a little bit on Sunday. We have Jason Pinnock, who hasn't played at all. So there's still guys that we haven't even really seen. And I know they don't play safety, but I'm just kind of speaking in terms of the secondary right now. I would love to see them do kind of a little bit of everything. Address it in the draft, address it in free agency, and again, just let these young guys keep learning and keep playing. There's a couple of funny comments or at least one comment that I wanted to get to. So, where is it? I can't find it. I know I favored it. Oh, there we go. There it is. Ververn earlier says, "Wow, James does look like Drake. Never noticed it." They are saying you look like James. You look like Drake's little brother. I think it's a compliment, though.
Tan from Aruba?
Maybe.
Okay.
I think he has like a beard sometimes.
I'll take it.
Too. I thought it was funny.
Yeah, I'll take it.
That OVO life.
Yeah. Grant Rood says, "Don't worry, Mike. The 2022 draft class for the 2022 tight end class is strong. I am absolutely of the frame of mind that I want to invest in a tight end early in the 2022 draft, unless they're trading for somebody that I can't see right now making sense. I want to make a move for tight end. It needs to happen. The offense, it would be that much better with a guy who could make some plays in the middle, and I think that's kind of what Jamison Crowder's doing right now. He's filling that void of like a safety blanket, somebody that's intermediate and short. We could really use that tight end threat, though, man. It's a bummer when we see guys like Croft and Griffin just not really doing a whole lot. All right. Grant Rood also agrees. I don't want to see a safety picked in the first round. This was an interesting take. Mo Lake says, "I can see May staying for less money now," which isn't a bad thought, because he's kind of done some harm to his value with the DUI, or at least that's what what's being reported. We'll see. That's an interesting thought. I don't see Joe Douglas paying him, but if it's super cheap, maybe he will. Maybe if May, rebounds here a little bit, maybe he could, but I don't foresee that happening. Let's see here. And then we've got another take here. Braden, he's saying, "I don't think May's going to play another game for the Jets. I think once he gets healthy, unless he's unless he is suspended. I think he might actually, but we'll see. Carmelo El Bori's way says, I want May to enjoy winning with us, right? He hasn't really had that opportunity as a Jet. So I'm sure that's part of his frustration is he's really been a part of some really bad football teams, and I'm sure he wants to win and get paid all at the same time. Alrighty, let's see here. We'll go to the next mailbag, and it is New Era Jets again. And he says, Corey Davis showed us why he is wide receiver 1 for this team. I feel like in the second half he went crazy and went attack mode. The first half he tried to make it a revenge game, had a crucial drop. He also slipped and caused the interception. And we saw good performances from Cole and Crowder. Let's talk a little bit about, the beginning of the game. I was getting kind of frustrated, if I'm being honest, with Corey Davis. There was the drop. There was the slip on the field, which could happen to anybody. But then on the third play, he almost had the trifecta. He caught a pass, and then it was his first catch of the game, and he almost lost it on a fumble. But he flipped the script. James, I'll let you go first this time. Just talk a little bit about Corey Davis, because he did have a really great game after the couple of miscues.
Yeah, he had a great game, but it felt good because we knew what he could do, obviously, previously in Tennessee, and then the preseason got us so excited for kind of what he can do. And week 1, he had the 2 touchdowns against Carolina, so off to a great start. And then it just kind of snowballed into these drops. Wasn't able to really create any separation against New England. And then we kind of start off week 4, and he's dropping the ball, he's falling down. And so that's a confidence thing. At some point in time, something happened, mentally for him that kind of maybe just shifted gears in terms of his confidence on the field. And when you lose that confidence on the field, it gets very difficult to reverse it. But all you need is that one play, those 1 or 2 plays. And you said it with that one where he fumbled afterwards. It was, I think it was like an 11 or 12-yard gain. And then the very next play, he went off for, I think it was 30 yards. And that started it right then and there. That got him going. And ultimately, we kind of know the rest on the long touchdown, the 53-yard touchdown. So it felt good to kind of have Corey Davis back, even though it was only four weeks. And he played all the games. It just felt like we were missing him for a good, probably like 2.5 games or so, maybe 2 full games. So just good for Corey Davis. I was pretty excited for him because when you start checking social media during the game, it was just an avalanche of kind of bad tweets against Corey Davis. And no one should be attacked personally for their performance on the field, but that's kind of how Twitter works a little bit. The social media people, I think they care so much that they tend to go a little bit overboard. Maybe, people also kind of maybe drinking during the game. Twitter fingers get a little wild. But, because at one point, I think like the TikTok, like there's that TikTok kid. I don't even know if he's a kid. I'm not even sure if he's a kid. That guy who like makes he called him like a Walmart DK Metcalf, which was like kind of, it was pretty fun. It was pretty funny, but you have to really be messing up if someone's going to call you Walmart DK Metcalf. So it was just good to see Corey Davis get on track because I think now he's got his confidence back and we'll see the guy that we saw in the second half and the preseason kind of going forward here.
I think he's going to have a monster game this Sunday. I really do. I think he's going to have – I think he may even end up having his best game of the season, like, throughout the season. Like, this might be his best game of the season. Excuse me. Mike, do you want to touch a little bit on Corey? You don't have to go crazy there.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's not a lot to add to that. I agree with everything James is saying. I think the one thing I think that, it was interesting because we had a game finally where multiple receivers were feeling it. They were feeling pretty good, and they were really reacting to the play call. And Zach was finding the right guy at the right time. Corey, though, I mean, I'm thinking back on the games, and I'm going to throw something out there just based on my perception on it is, Corey's had a lot of drops, and then he is struggling with the fumble. I think he had a fumble in a different game. I can't remember which game it was. and it's just because he's catching traffic every time. And now he's a receiver he's got the size to catch in traffic, and he makes those plays. But I think that's why it was so electrifying to see Crowder, because Crowder was getting into those open spots in the secondary. Now, some of that's not necessarily all the receiver. It's a position that the coordinator is putting them in and things like that. But I think that's the one thing that I do give Corey a little bit of a pass, I guess you could say, with some of the drops and of course the scary fumble that we saw is, the guy's trying to catch. I mean, that touchdown was double coverage, if I remember correctly. I think there was 2 defenders there. So it's not like he's had, a breakdown on the defense where he's just been wide open. I mean, he has had plays where he has gotten some separation, but he's doing all this in tight traffic. And if we could just get a situation where these other receivers continue to stay hot, it's going to make it easier and easier for Corey to be consistent, to put up numbers and things of that nature.
That's a good take.
And when we were talking about the tight end situation, we got to get to the offseason. I don't know. One of my big New Year's resolutions is to follow some of these college players before the draft. That was one of the big things I didn't do for the last offseason, and I definitely want to do this time. So I don't know who the tight end talent is, but I really think, and I don't mean to raise a sore topic, but I really think that's where Denzel Mims can really fill a gap for us this year. I think he's dealing with an illness. I know he's not going to play. I know that. But, I think that, just seeing what Crowder brought to the receiving corps and what he brought to Corey in terms of opening up options, man, if we could work Denzel into that, I think that would be a good way to keep this momentum and really, position these receivers to have another, just fire week with Atlanta and London. So I know that's a sore topic, but I do think that the trick to Corey is keeping the pressure off of him. I mean, the pressures of being a wide receiver one, if he's getting the ball every time, we're going to have problems, or at least trying to force it to him. And I think that's where Crowder did a great job. That's where Keenan Cole did a great job. And I think Mims could really help with that situation. So I don't know. I know it's not going to happen. And I know you hated John, but it sucks. It's a sucky situation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm over it. Like the Mims thing, I was fighting it very, very hard, and it just seems like it is not going to change until something changes. Like it's not going to happen. They have clearly made it clear to the fan base he hasn't done what they expect him to do, and so it's until he does what they expect, it's not going to change. He probably will not suit up on Sunday. I think Elijah Moore is going to be the one that is activated. They already cleared him for this Sunday. Saleh said he'll be out there. I don't think we'll see Mims. I mean, maybe he will play, but I don't expect it. Another good take by Mo Lake. He says tight ends take a few years to develop, and I think he's referring to the draft. And that's a good take. We're seeing that right now with a freak of nature. Kyle Pitts is absolutely, developing, learning the game. There's a lot on a tight end's plate, obviously, because they are blockers and they are receivers. So that's a good take by you. Thanks for throwing that in the comments. Okay, we're trucking along here. Let me see here. This is a question that I feel like we literally get this one every single week. Is it worth it to bring in some free agents on the O-line to push GVR? James, I'm going to let you go with this one. You're the only one that's going to talk on it. What are your thoughts on picking up a offensive lineman mid-season to push GVR?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of who's available. I mean, off the top of my head, it's just very hard to think. I mean, off the top of my head, I have no idea who's available free agent-wise right now to even play, to kind of push them. So it becomes, I mean, if there's somebody out there, but in my opinion, at this point, someone to push him, I don't think there's going to be anyone out there that is going to be able to push him, considering he was there all training camp. He's now started all 4 games. They had a better week last week. So that was a positive. The offensive line as a whole, I just don't know if there's anyone out there right now, free agent wise, that's going to be able to push a starter, even though he's kind of played kind of subpar-ish.
Yeah. And the only thing I'll say is that more likely that we would have somebody on the team, practice squad, or on the bench That would be the ideal scenario. Somebody that you could, promote from the practice squad, or somebody that's on the bench that is pushing that player in practice. And it's not going to be done through free agency. In my opinion, that would be very, very surprising, especially, like I said, during midseason. But thank you anyway for the mailbag. We have 2 more, and then we'll get into some more focused topics about this upcoming game. We've got one from Eagle Fang, and he says, happy for Zach Wilson for his first win of the season, but this is for the future question. Is Becton in the long-term plans? With his injury history of his knees, can he be depended on as a long-term answer for Zach's blind side? Marcus May also arrested for a DUI. We kind of talked about that. He says that the Jets dodged a massive bullet by not giving him a long-term contract. Let's not talk about May. We already kind of hit on that one. So let's talk about Becton. Long-term, is he in the plans? Mikey boy, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's concerning. It's a bummer, of course, to see him battling. I mean, it's not surprising given his size. I really do think that this is where I kind of if I was to put my frustration with Becton, it's, I really think the conditioning coaches is really, and that could be misplaced, but their job is to make these players as sustainable as possible. I mean, yeah, you want to say that's because of the human factor, and that they're all good guys. At least that's what we like to think. But at the end of the day, they're assets to the team. They're assets on the pay. We pay these guys huge amounts of money, and it's the job of these conditioning coaches to get these guys not even just into football shape, but into a shape that they can maximize their physical skill sets, and also over a long period of time, given the amount of money that their contracts deliver on. So, I really feel like everyone knows his size is an issue, and maybe those conditioning coaches are doing this, but I really feel like I think we were expecting him to come in at a little bit trimmer of a size. At least that was my take on it. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't think the injuries are concerned if we really apply a good program to Mekhi to really make sure that he can be sustainable and make sure he can last, multiple seasons in the league. This is all just speculation, but I just don't see his size and really them addressing what they need to address to make sure he doesn't have these types of situations. So, of course, he's a grown man, and you would think he wants a long career in the NFL, but sometimes you got to push these guys, and it's the second season in the NFL, right? So, for that reason, I don't think it's an issue. I just think we need to apply a little bit more kind of oversight on him and making sure he's taken it seriously, make sure our coaches are taking it seriously. But I think he's definitely part of our long-term plan. I don't think the Jets have wrote him off. I don't think we should write him off. It's just a matter of trying to address some of the weaknesses he has, both physically as well as on the field. So, for that reason, I think it's just we just need to be better about managing these players, both their physical as well as their mental. So, I think that's the best way.
What do you think, James? I do agree that he's in the long-term plans. I'm not sure I agree that he is. Especially with the last injury. That injury that he suffered had nothing to do with his weight. And actually, he doesn't really have any knee injuries. He had a shoulder last year, if I'm remembering correctly. He did have the foot in the offseason. Yeah. What do you think, James? Long-term plans? I say yes.
Yes, yeah, long-term plans for sure, right? Because correct me if I didn't see the play where he got injured, but he got rolled up on, right?
Yep, rolled up. It was
rolled up on.
The way I said it was everybody in the NFL would get hurt on that play if they were in his spot.
Yeah, and it's very difficult for offensive linemen because they can't really see anything that's actually going on behind them. Mm-hmm. So it's not really all that uncommon of a thing for them to get rolled up on, but it obviously unfortunate. It's not something that he can't control that was going to happen no matter who was standing there. But yes, absolutely in the plans. He's going to come back and he's going to pancake someone. It's going to be on Instagram. It's going to be a highlight. People are going to be showing it all over the place, and he'll be our franchise left tackle again when that happens. So once he's healthy, you put him out there and absolutely long-term plans.
I hope to see him this season. I know that's kind of the expectation is that he will be back. And I think that's a boon to our offense, man. If he gets right and he gets back on the field, I think that's a big win. It'll help the running game a lot. So I think that Moses has solidified himself. He's going to stay as the right tackle. I don't think the Jets would push Fant back to right. So that's a kind of a win in that circumstance. So I'm with all of you. I agree. He is absolutely in the plans.
Yeah.
Injuries they are a factor. He does need to stay healthy, but I believe he is the man. So, all right, last one for the night, and then we will get to our Atlanta Falcons discussion. Isaac Wright leaves me a comment. He says, I know most likely this is Crowder's last year as a Jet. So if it is, should we draft a wide receiver? And if so, how early in the draft? That's a good question. I'm starting to wonder about Crowder. He proved his worth. We all knew that he was valuable. And maybe we didn't realize how valuable now that we saw him in game action, really helping this offense to get turned around. I'll start with this one, by the way. So I don't want to go too early in the draft. We've already invested heavily in the wide receiver position in the draft. I would be fine with adding a free agent or tradings for somebody. But the wide receiver group is so young. Mims, Moore, and Corey Davis is still pretty young as well. I don't know if another rookie would help us. Of course, drafting another talented player is helpful, but I just don't know if we need another rookie in that group. So personally, I wouldn't draft one, and I would invest, again, in free agency or trade. I'm not so sure that Crowder is completely gone. I know I've been saying that for a long time, but maybe Joe Douglas reevaluates things. I'm sure that he will pivot sometimes on his own beliefs like we do on this show. I have to imagine that he watched this game and said to himself, damn, that was a big difference. And so maybe Crowder won't be gone, even though we've all been kind of saying that. Perhaps he won't be gone. Mike, what do you think? Crowder, do you draft somebody?
I agree, yeah.
Do you think Crowder could potentially be kept?
I think no. I think Crowder is an X factor in terms of.
And he's not that old. He's not even that old.
I think Elijah is really the deciding factor there. I think it really depends on how Elijah performs the rest of the season and how Mike LaFleur and Zach respond to Elijah versus Crowder. Now, if Titans game is a telltale sign, I think Elijah will be in more of a support role more so than he thought, at least especially into game one. But I think it really comes down to whether Elijah brings it or whether he needs more time to develop.
Okay, that's a fair take. Crowder, thoughts? Crowder, Jesus. James, any thoughts on that wide receiver for the Jets?
So obviously Corey Davis is here for 2 more years after this. Jamison Crowder, I would bring back, and that's my opinion. Keelan Cole, I think he's on a 1-year deal, so we'd have to see what happens there. But obviously, we hope Denzel Mims kind of develops over another year time. Elijah Moore, I would bring back Jamison Crowder. I want to keep some kind of get some kind of continuity going on around here, especially for Zach's sake. It just feels like it's always just the turnover. A lot of these teams, they keep guys around, they keep guys together, especially on offense. The chemistry is really important. I would bring back Crowder, still young. Zach's on that, that rookie deal. So we have a lot of flexibility there. I would like Joe Douglas to maybe reach in his pocket here and there just a little bit more going forward now. Just a little bit. I'm not asking him to go, New England Patriots, free agency last year crazy, but just here and there to kind of make sure these guys can stay together and not so much worry about an extra couple $1 million here and there.
I love the dig at the Patriots, by the way. That's beautifully done. Beautifully done. That's why we needed you back.
It's working out fantastic.
Yeah,
it's working out fantastic. So
yeah, Jonnu Smith specifically. I mean, what in the world? They have not utilized him at all. Not well enough, I would say. All right, cool. I do agree, and I think there's no shame in pivoting and in having a change in plan And I think it's okay for fans to do that as well. Like we can look at it and say like, okay, there's clear signs here that Crowder still plenty of juice, obviously, and helped Zach a lot. And I love the word that you use, continuity. Jets fans are so used to needing to replace guys like, and like this guy's terrible, let's get a new guy. Like Crowder's good. We don't have to get rid of him. We don't have to let him go. We can try to re-sign him.
Has he been obviously? Sorry,
No, you're
didn't
good.
cut you off. But if he keeps right, he played one game this year and didn't miss a beat. I mean, he was the exact same guy that he's been over the last couple of years.
Exactly.
But if he keeps playing this way, if you look back 3 years from this season, is he the best player the Jets have had the last 3 years?
I would say
That's
yes.
a good question.
And
You probably have to say yes. You probably have to say yes.
Yes.
Other than maybe Quinnen Williams, but
Yeah.
I think he's maybe Quinnen Williams. If that guy keeps it up, then probably not. But Crowder would be up there at least, maybe 1, 2, or 3. Yeah.
Quinnen about to get banked. He about to get paid. He better get paid.
Yes, he is.
So just real quick, and we'll move on after this, and we are going to get to your comments. We've been neglecting the shit out of the chat, and we do apologize for that. We got to do our mailbag though. So what I was going to say is that shoot, what the hell was I going to say? We were talking about Crowder, right?
Yeah.
The thought slipped my mind. I'll get back to it hopefully. Crap. Son of a bitch. I hate that. I hate that. I gotta write these juicy notes down while I'm thinking of them. We'll go to the comments because I forgot like an idiot. Manny C, he says, John, do you still need to see more from JFM to consider re-signing him? I do not. I don't think that there's any reason to hesitate. He's shown that every year he's getting better. He is versatile. He's physical. He can play the run. He can play the pass. And he's stepped up, man. I remember I made my video about Carl Lawson going down, and I was like, I guess Jonathan Franklin Myers, he's got to step up, and he has, man. He's made a big, big difference on this defensive line. I don't see how we couldn't possibly consider re-signing him mid-season, kind of like what we did with Ryan Griffin. Obviously, we don't want it to turn out like Ryan Griffin. But what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that? Oh, and by the way, the juicy thing that I was going to say, it wasn't even that juicy. Crowder's one of the better free agent signings that we've had, I think, in a long, long time. Just very, very productive and consistent. All right, go ahead, James. Sorry.
All right, so now we're on John Franklin Myers, right?
Yeah. Would you hesitate? Do you need to see more from him?
Yeah. Oh no, I wouldn't hesitate. I'd pay him. That clip of him blocking the tight end, who the tight end wound up basically tackling Derrick Henry, just keeps like replaying through my head. But he's been a fantastic player. He stepped up when we needed somebody to step up. This was someone's chance, right? Carl Lawson goes down, everyone's down in the dumps, and of course we'd love to have him, but guys have stepped up in their place. Guys have used their opportunity. John Franklin Myers is one, Bryce Huff is the other, and they're both kind of really, I wouldn't say that they're shocking us, because I think we all knew they had the potential.
We talked a lot about them.
We were really down in the dumps. We thought, especially after probably the Packers preseason game, we thought we were going to let up like 40 points a game, I think. It like had that feeling to it. We're not going to have a pass rush. We have 22-year-old kids in the secondary. What's going to happen here? John Franklin Myers deserves to be on this team for the next few years, and I would get that done sooner rather than later, because at some point he's going to say, no, I'm going to wait to hit the open market, and someone's going to pay him something that maybe Joe Douglas doesn't want to do. So I would do it and see if I could do it as fast as possible.
Yeah, and he might not even want to do that now. I mean, I hope to God that he does.
Yeah.
But he might want to. He might like the idea of people bidding up on him. Mike, would you hesitate on re-signing Mr. Jonathan Franklin Myers?
His engine is just ridiculous. That thing fires at a high RPM all the time. And I'll tell you the other one I love Bryce Huff. I love Bryce Huff. So I think between having Franklin Myers on one side, Huff on the other side, and then you got Quinton Williams. I don't know, I mean, with Lawson out, I'm so excited to see this line really start to, just kind of adapt, and perform, and they get better every game. I really do think. I mean, obviously, have they all resulted in wins? No, but now we're starting to see that. We're starting to see the return on investment, and that line seems to be really forming its own cohesiveness and camaraderie. And so, would I absolutely pursue John Franklin Myers? Absolutely, but Bryce Huff is right there, and we need to be ready for him as well, especially if he keeps playing the way he is.
Yeah, dude. And it's like, of course, it's not really good that Carl Lawson got hurt, because could you imagine what this defensive line would be like? I mean, I think we all have been saying that. But silver lining here is man, it's really, like James said, it's been giving these guys more reps, more opportunities. They're developing faster because they're playing. So, it may be a little bit optimistic, but this could end up being better. Like next season, we've all been talking about 2022. We've been circling that date. Maybe this is better for the Jets long term now that these guys are getting all this playing time, and maybe Carl Lawson won't be relied on to play some ridiculously high amount of snaps next year. Maybe he can be brought around a little bit slowly, play third downs even, just play a little bit. So I love it, man. I think it's great for our team for the long term and the short term. And again, not saying I prefer to get hurt, of course. So, all right, we'll keep going. We'll keep going with the chat here. Yeah, Michelle's been telling me this quote all week. She loved it. Corey Davis in the post game, he was like, "Zach told me to go deep, so I listened." That is a quote. That is what he said. It's kind of cool.
I love the point when they do the point downfield, like the Babe Ruth point for the home run. I think it's just fantastic. I love that.
We're gonna talk about Zach, because I don't know about you. I don't know about you fellas. I was at 2 football games in person. I screamed my ass off. I mean, there were some really, really impressive throws in that football game. And again, it's just one game, so I'm definitely not like in some crazy stratosphere, but how could you not be excited seeing those throws? I mean, we've heard that he has Aaron Rodgers qualities, Patrick Mahomes qualities. He proved that he has those qualities. He showed it in an NFL game. So how could you not be excited by what he did? So I don't know. I'm excited about it, man. I was screaming so loud in my living room. So let's see here. A lot of people are talking about Moore in the chat. Vern says Moore can learn a ton from Crowder. Glad that he stayed. Sprinkle a little bit of Moore, but Crowder should be demonstrating for Elijah. So very similar comments there. I think that's kind of what Mike touched on, is the idea is that if Elijah takes big steps as the season goes on, maybe Joe Douglas says, you know what, maybe I don't need to re-sign him. I still think it's best to re-sign him if possible. But we will have to wait and see on Moore. He still hasn't really done a whole lot. Let's see. Kev Chadda. He says, late here, anybody notice Wilson throwing with too much zip because he waits too long? I thought so. A lot of people point to the Corey Davis throw and to the throw to Keelan Cole, but the best throw of the game in my mind was the sideline throw in overtime, where he put a ton of touch on that ball. And so, do I think that he's throwing with too much zip because he waits too long? I don't think necessarily. He does put a lot of zip on his balls, but it's not one of those things where he only throws with zip, if that makes any sense. Like some guys you'll see throw it like with all of their arm strength when they're really just dumping it off to a running back. I don't think that's a problem for him. I think he knows when to take off the juice. What do you think, James? Have you seen any of that on tape? Because I know you've been watching tape.
Yeah, no, I feel like the comment is probably referencing the Crowder touchdown. And if the person who commented is listening, give a thumbs up if that's correct, because he did have Crowder a ton earlier in the play. He probably could have made it a lot easier on himself and us. by throwing it a little bit earlier. So he had to zip that thing in. He had no choice. So he has the ability. He has the ability to do that. But you're right. The touch passes. If you need a little arc, if you need a little air, he can definitely do that as well. Because the third down throw, you're right, 3rd and 2, the corner route to Keelan Cole in overtime was definitely the best throw of the day. Obviously, the other two will be on Sports Center and all that kind of stuff, but that just kind of shows you the special part of him that he has. But the actual quarterbacking of it, of dropping back 3 steps in the pocket, there was a bit of pressure up the middle, and he kind of just throws it, right in the bucket to Keelan Cole for a huge gain. That was the overtime right there. Because if he doesn't make that throw, it's 4th down. We have to punt, and then the Titans can win with a field goal, which seemed probably likely. Obviously, they missed it, but seemed likely that our defense was kind of running out of a tad bit of gas there at the end. So, yeah, for Zach, he probably on the Crowder throw, if he would have thrown it a little bit earlier, he would not have had to have thrown it with the velocity that he did. But if he needs to, he can let that thing rip. So.
Yep. All right, Emanon NYNV, he says, Becton absolutely will be a part of the long-term plans. He says, remember, he's a kid. He's learning his second system in 2 years, and he got rolled on, which we did talk about. So definitely not his fault that he's hurt again. Carmelo El Bori's way, he says that linebackers should be a big focus in the draft. Time will tell. We don't know we really still haven't seen a whole lot from Hamza, who is hurt right now. He's going to be out for 3 weeks, I heard from Saleh. Jamian Sherwood, we've seen a little bit from him. He hasn't had really any splash plays to this point. I think it's very possible that linebacker could be a big focus. And there's nothing better than watching some linebackers just who have awesome speed, make big plays on the ball. And that's what I love about the 4-3 scheme, man. It allows those guys to make a lot of awesome plays where they're not really having to fight through blockers as much, and they can just make those splash plays. Kind of like what we saw from Quincy Williams, who we will talk about. I'm not going to wait too much longer on that because that dude had me hyped up, excuse me. All right, let's keep it moving and grooving. So Vern's asking, he says, you wouldn't push Fant back to right tackle and move Moses into GVR's spot. We've talked a lot about that. Mike, what would you do? If Becton gets back, he's left tackle, how would you reshuffle the line, or would you not reshuffle the line?
Yeah, I don't. Well, obviously, Becton's presence is felt, so he is our anchor there. Just keeping him healthy. And for some reason, I didn't think he rolled. I thought he tweaked it on his own. So I have to go back and look at that again. So my apologies there. My thought process is that his body weight contributed to the injury, but I'll have to go back and look at the roll. Yeah. But yeah, I would probably say it's all about how the line's performing, and I think that this line is all about consistency, and I think it's really about trying to not rock the boat as much as possible. So, I think right now these guys are settling into a comfort zone, and then reinserting Becton seems to be the easiest way to keep the momentum going. But to me, some of this is still on shaky ground. I still think, have we seen the consistency there to really make that decision? And especially for you guys, for both of you, if you've been watching them a little bit more closely than I have, I'd be interested to see what you guys think.
What do you think, Jays? We talked about probably Moses should stay at right tackle, but what about the thought of pushing him inside and just getting rid of the stink of Greg Van Roten? I'm not in favor of that, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's too late. If we were going to do that, it probably should have happened when we signed him. So I think it's too late for him to go over to right guard. I think that's too much. So it's going to be Becton, Moses, and Greg Van Roten will keep that right guard spot.
Yep. Rusty Spooner comes in the chat and he says, I wonder if we pick up Gilmore. Can't believe the Patriots leased him. He was, I believe, traded for, actually, which is strange because the news that he was released came out before the trade news. Traded for a 6th-round pick in 2023 to the Carolina Panthers. And he alludes to that in the chat. He says, wow, Carolina. It was a good move, but I don't like Bill Belichick and I don't like the Patriots, but he typically knows when to get rid of a player. He kind of fouled up the Brady stuff. It looks like he thought they needed to just move on at this point. But in general, he does a pretty good job of moving on at the right time. So we'll see. I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna get out of him. There must be something going on behind the scenes because there's no way he's worth just a 6th-round pick based on his play prior to injury. There's no way. So NY Jets Florida, he did post earlier. He said that we do need a number 1 wide receiver, and we absolutely should do it in the draft. He says we need a Chase Claypool type. I don't hate the idea of getting somebody like that. I'm just not sure I'm comfortable spending another high pick on that position group when we do have just so many other positions of need. But listen, man, if there's somebody that they just feel like they can't not draft, I'm not going to complain about it because we certainly could use a real bona fide number 1 wide receiver. But let's still give it some time, man. I still think that Corey might surprise people. I think he's going to have a monster game. I already said that earlier in the stream. I think he's going to have a really big game this weekend. I think he might push close to 150 yards. I do believe that. Alrighty. Just trying to go through here. I hope Bryce Huff continues on the pace that he's on. Yeah, 1.5 sacks in the game this past weekend. I was a little bit down on him because I thought that he would, only be brought in on 3rd downs, obvious pass situations, and because of his ability to stop the run. But it certainly seems like, whatever they use him, whatever role he's in right now, it's working. So I am not down on him at all. I think he's definitely on his way. And another dude that we talked a lot about in the offseason that is absolutely stat-wise, I think that's where people get a little bit misled. It's like he doesn't have any interceptions this season, but Bryce Hall he's doing great. He's doing wonderful. Yeah. And he looks like a really, really good number 2, and he may become a really good number 1. We don't know what's going to happen. He's still only in his 2nd year. Carmelo says if Hall can become the lockdown corner, that makes Saleh's job even easier because half the field becomes an island. Mikey, talk a little bit about Brycey.
Love it, man. The two of them were all over the place. Bryce Huff, Bryce Hall. It was good to see them getting called out, making the plays. I mean, Bryce Hall, I think I wrote down a couple of stats. I mean, he had over five five tackles. He had 2 QB hits. I did note that. And then I think he was recorded for half a sack, if I remember correctly.
He did blitz, yeah.
And then a tag on 2 or 3 pass deflections, and you got yourself quite a hell of a day right there. So if that's, and again, that Bryce is a great example of another player who I think is performing better and better every game. He, I think, leads by example for those other guys. I think it's great to see that. I think he brings a lot of energy to the team. And I would totally agree with that, with that, whoever made that comment. If he could become that lockdown corner, that takes a lot, that opens up a lot of opportunities for the other guys, both in the secondary as well as in other areas of the defense to make big plays. And really it's really good to see how that defense is performing. I think it's been the one comment in every game, win or loss, mostly loss, obviously, since we just got our first win. But the defense has been there. Have they had their peaks and valleys? Absolutely. But I think we can all say they've impressed us in the areas where we thought they were going to be weak. So, for the coaches, a part of that defensive squad, they definitely raised my eyebrows. And Bryce Hall is definitely one of those key players.
James, have you been paying a close attention to Brycey? What's he showing? What are you seeing from him? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so Bryce Hall, the first thing about Bryce Hall is he's not your typical 5th round draft pick, right? That's not who he is. He had a devastating leg injury at the University of Virginia. Kind of one of those where they put the towel over it, turn off the television kind of injuries. And if that did not happen to Bryce Hall, he would, one, not be on the Jets because we wouldn't have had the chance to draft him. He would have likely been, if not a first-round pick, a very high second-round pick. And so he's a talent to where if he got back to what he was, he's going to be a special player. It's just how he was at University of Virginia. I think his last year before the injury, he led the country in pass deflections. It was something ridiculous like 24. I think it was 23 or 24. That's a crazy number to post up in terms of getting your hands on a football to break up a pass. And realistically, they probably played 11 games or so. So you're looking at multiple pass breakups per game. And so that's the first thing about Bryce Hall. If he was able to kind of get it together, and we saw it last year. He had the really good interception against the Rams, but he was a guy for me, and I kind of broke it down in the offseason. And I think I might have even we did a breakdown of Bryce Hall here as well. He's a guy who knows his responsibility, right? And I kind of always try to throw this in, and we mentioned 40 time last time, and I think it was about Bryce Hall. It was, Coach Sala wants speed. He said he wanted speed, but speed doesn't just mean I could run from point A to point B really fast, right? As a cornerback, you have to know your responsibility, what you need to do, and it allows you to play faster because you are reacting appropriately, within, a split second or so. And that's what Bryce Hall does really well. And then it was the man coverage that I had certain things where I was like, all right, well, he's going up against a Devontae Parker. He had a lot of Mike Williams. He had a lot of tough matchups in his rookie year with a defense that really wasn't that great. And there were a few things that I wanted him to do just a little bit better. And he's kind of taken off this year in terms of these first 4 games. There's no cornerback in the NFL that has let up 10 catches or less when the ball's thrown their way, except Bryce Hall, who's only let up 7. No one's let up less than 10. And in man coverage, it's his eyes. He's very disciplined with his eyes. He no pass interference. That one where he had to recover really on Sunday comes into mind. He was beat for sure. He was definitely beat. If he looks back, that's a touchdown. If Bryce Hall's like, oh crap, I'm beat, I'm gonna look back to find the football, it's a touchdown. The Titans are gonna score a touchdown there. Instead, he just puts his head down and he just runs. When the wide receiver puts his hand up, he just dives and gets his hands in between his pass breakup. So Bryce Hall, for me, before the season, I was like, hey, this guy could be a really good cornerback too. And then maybe we get one of these top cornerbacks if we have a top 10 pick in the draft. And then, it's a nice little tandem. It's kind of looking like Bryce Hall might be able to, as of right now, be our cornerback one of the future. And I'm not afraid to kind of say that. So I think he's been one of the most impressive players on this entire team.
Yeah, I know the Jets fans really want the offense to be the storyline of the season, but man, the defense has just done some really, really impressive things. On top of the line play, excuse me, we talked about Bryce Hall, the other young players. We haven't even talked about Michael Carter II, who looks fantastic, Javelin Guidry, who's crushing it. Sala stopped his presser to talk about how great he's playing and what a stud he is. He's played nickel, he's played outside corner, and he's played dime. And I think he did all of those responsibilities in the Tennessee game. So his versatility and his play is just, again, I'm really, really excited about all of the young talent that we've accrued on defense. Grant Rude throws in the comments, how great has Mosley been in keeping everyone organized and playing top notch? I said it I said it on the Sunday post-game show. I was wrong about Mosley. I thought it was going to take some time. He just came out ready to go. He has looked fantastic, man. He has played his ass off. Just absolutely awesome. And I think there was a comment just a couple of minutes ago right here. Yeah. Anybody hear Sala recount CJ Mosley's audible? A defensive play call that led to a sack, superhero move. Actually, in addition to that, Sala said that's not something that he allows in his defensive scheme, which I was kind of surprised by, actually, to hear him say that. I'm shocked. But at the same time, though, it's pretty badass that Mosley's like, yeah, I got this. It's not something you really want me doing, but I'll do it, boss. No worries. I mean, that just shows the mental capacity that he has and, what he knows as a player in the NFL. It's remarkable. The defense has blown me away. Really has. Let's see. This was one of the topics that I was going to hit on if nobody mentioned it. Would you sign Jalen Smith? He was cut by the Dallas Cowboys. And funny story about Jalen, he just paid I think it was $500,000 to have his jersey number changed. I don't know if you guys heard about that. I don't know if
he was just team captain. Yeah. They named him team captain at the last game.
Yeah, and he spent a lot of dough on his dumb number. Anyway, what would you do here? I know that Joe from X Factor, he's like
Joe Blewett.
Yeah, Joe Blewett. Sorry, I was screwing up with the last name again. Yeah, he basically said, "Why the F not?" And I'm kind of on board with that. What are your thoughts on that? Do you know much about him, Mike? I don't want to throw it your way if you don't.
No,
know
I've been following him because I got him on my fantasy squad, so it's actually pretty convenient for me. I agree. I mean, he's there. I think he's in a position where he wants to contribute to a team. That was very apparent. There was a clip of him breaking down the Cowboys defense, and I think that was right after the game. So it was just, it had a meme where it was just like, little did he know kind of thing. But he definitely is one of those players who raises the morale, who raises the expectations that the players have for themselves, regardless of what the coaches have. And of course, he's also had a very inspiring trajectory, similar to Bryce Hall that James talked about, coming back from an injury, battling through that, earning respect from his players. And that's the kind of guy that you're not going to keep down. And that's the kind of players that you want on your squad, who are going to keep fighting, regardless of whether it's, challenges that they're facing individually or challenges that the team is facing collectively. I think the Jets could use more of that. I think that's kind of the defining kind of theme that Robert's bringing to the team is people who don't back down from adversity, even if you start 0-3. I think that I think he has a role here with the Jets. What his long term, where he fits in long term, I don't think he needs to worry about that, nor do the Jets. I just think we need to take advantage of an opportunity, a player who wants to contribute to a team, and especially a player like that, to be surrounded with young players like we have, could be a perfect recipe for quite an exciting 3/4 of the rest of the season.
Well, I don't want to interrupt anything. I haven't seen anything official. Some people are saying that he's already signed with the Green Bay Packers. It looks like it's heavily rumored right now. Ian Rappaport a couple hours ago said that they are finalizing details apparently in a move. I really like the idea of bringing him in. I won't spend any more time on it just because it does look like he might get signed by the Packers. I think that just speed and young and talented, if we can get our hands on guys like that, I'm all about it. So it's a little bit disappointing that we're not going to go after him, but I kind of understand. He probably wants to go to a contending team. So, I mean, that's nothing wrong with saying that, man. We are not quite there yet. We are a blossoming flower, but we are still. We're not there yet. Our petals have not completely opened up yet. All right, cool. Vern says, let's give AVT and Air Coleman. I believe he's talking about Tevin. He says they aren't getting enough credit for the W. AVT is definitely improving every single week. And the other thing about Tevin Coleman that I keep mentioning to people is that he is a versatile guy. He can really make plays kind of all over the place. I still haven't seen them use him as a wide receiver. I think that's something that he should be able to do in this offense is line him up as a running back, motion him out. I like the idea of that, and I think that he's pretty explosive too. You saw the jets that he has. Once he got that little screen pass, he was off and running. So I do agree. I think I've been saying it since we signed him. Mike hated the signing. I'm gonna just bring that up because I can.
To do
Don't be upset. He hasn't done enough yet to really warrant
that's what I'm
anything.
saying.
But
I hope he proves me wrong.
I think that
But-
he's.
But when you got Michael Carter back there, it's too enticing. Too enticing.
I think that's another guy. I think Michael Carter is going to have a really good game this Sunday as well. He probably will have his better game. They're not doing very well against the run. We got a question for James. I guess F me and F Mike, but hey, that's okay. James, Grant Rude's asking you. He says, what's going on with the Jets O-line getting beat with stunts and twists that come their way? What's going on with that?
Yeah, so that's all communication. That's all chemistry. When you're dealing with stunts, you got to be able to pass things off. Who's responsible for which gap, which player. Personally, I don't know entirely the specific details. Kind of was on a little bit of a hiatus, so I kind of just skipped the film of the first 3 weeks, just because it didn't seem advantageous to come back and put myself through that. So they definitely struggled based on kind of what I saw from what everybody else the Jets X Factor kind of does. That was really the biggest piece in terms of them being able to handle the stunts. And basically, from my knowledge of being able to handle that kind of all comes with chemistry and communication on the field. You got to be in the right spot. We all know kind of the infamous play of Connor McGovern kind of looking one way and someone's rushing up the middle. That's kind of all communication. So that'll kind of pan out. I think we talked about it a lot with we think we got some pieces on this offensive line, but it wasn't going to happen from the beginning. This thing is going to be kind of a project. So, but you could see it got a ton better last week. So hopefully that kind of carries over this week.
Yeah, and I think it's like a multitude of things, man. We talked a lot about, it's been reported that Zach Wilson needs to get the ball out a little bit faster. And I think that's a fair take to have. And he's gonna do that. He's gonna learn how to get the ball out. He's gonna know where his reads are. And I do agree, like the offensive line. We said that, months ago at this point. We said it a while ago. Like there was gonna definitely be a gelling period where they needed to learn to play with one another. Even more so after the Becton injury when they had to reshuffle things. Like that's a huge thing. It's not easy to do that. So definitely a factor. We got Frankie in the chat. He says, "What's up, fellers?" It is his signature line. Carmelo Elbory's way throws a nod towards Blewett. He says, "Blewett is on the Jets X Factor. Is awesome in breaking down the film. So detailed. Indeed, indeed." He seems like a fun guy to be around too. He likes to have some brewskis at the game. Yeah. So I enjoy that. All right. I think we need to spend some time now. We've talked a lot about Titans. We've talked a lot about the players on the team, our excitement level, seeing these guys start to improve. Let's spend the next 20, 30 minutes or so talking a little bit about this Tennessee. Talking about this Atlanta game, this Atlanta Falcons game in London. We can just start with something as basic as, what kind of obstacles and challenges do the Atlanta Falcons present to us as a team? And then maybe in addition to that, how do the Atlanta Falcons see the Jets? Like, what are some things that they need to be mindful of in this game? Basically, a game plan. Like, what do you think these teams are going to be doing in the film room and in the game plans? I'll let Mikey go first here. Mike, what do you think the Falcons are going to do to attack the Jets? What do you think the Jets are going to do to attack the Falcons? I'd be interested to hear what you have to say.
Well, this is going to be interesting. I think obviously being in London is a variable for both teams to see how they react to those logistics and location. But these two teams are linked. Probably this community knows this, but for the average football fans, we have historical players who have come from both sides of these teams. Obviously, Mike LaFleur and Jeff came from their time at Atlanta. Tevin Coleman was actually drafted by Atlanta. So, the ties with some of the players on our team do go back to Atlanta. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays into game prep and strategies and things like that. Of course, it's not a one-way street. So just because we have Mike and Jeff doesn't mean we're the only ones that know, how, it's not the only thing isn't that we might know how Atlanta ticks, but, Atlanta might know how we tick as well. So those are the pros and cons there as well. I think the one thing about Atlanta, for us in terms of how we approach them is, they very much are an injured bird, in my opinion. That team is not playing at their fullest potential where they could be. I think that I definitely am living that first person because I do have Kyle Pitts, and I could use a little bit more production on my fantasy squad from Mr. Pitts. But
they're an injured dirty bird.
They are an injured dirty bird. But that team isn't playing to what they could be. Matt Ryan is still dangerous. Doesn't obviously have the consistency that he did 4 years ago, but any given day that team can light up. And of course, I would hate for that to be on this week of all weeks. But I do think that the Jets need to take it seriously, and I do think that we need to exploit what I think I've read, which was a Swiss cheese of a secondary, which Atlanta has. I think we should. I think, and John, you alluded to it with Corey Davis. I think they need to attack this team in the passing game, not to overlook the need of the running game, but don't be afraid to throw. I think they really need to exploit the secondary and the issues that they're having, and really try to spread this ball around. It's a shame, obviously. Mims, I wish, like I said, in a different universe, in a parallel universe, I wish Mims could have been part of that game plan, but obviously that won't be the case. In which case, the refreshing, having Crowder back, Cole, and then hopefully that opening up big plays for Corey, or even you might see, maybe they'll throw Elijah in there for a couple of unique play calls. Maybe Michael Floyd's got a few tricks up his sleeve as well. So, I think that's kind of going to be the game plan there. I will be interesting to see how dedicated we are to the run. Obviously, Robert talked about that. However, if we start to see successes in the air, it will be interesting to see if Michael Ford remembers to go back to the running game to diversify that. And then, of course, to your point, whether that's Tevin Coleman playing his old team, or whether Michael Carter gets the spotlight at that point. So I think we're going to attack that secondary. I expect a lot of rollouts from Zach. I think they're going to really exploit that. I don't know, just a few thoughts. I don't know.
No, that was good. Nice job. I agree with a lot of what you said. I didn't even think about Tevin Coleman playing the team that drafted him, so that's definitely a factor. James, give me like a little a little spit up of what you think is going to go down.
Yeah. So for the Falcons, I wrote down, and it's not really a secret, but I wrote down Matt Ryan, Calvin Ridley, Cordarrelle Patterson. Matt Ryan, I'm a huge Matt Ryan fan. I know he gets kind of a lot of slack here and there, but he's an MVP. He's a veteran. I watched the game against the New York Giants. He was very, very composed against a defense that is similar in a sense to the Jets in terms of it's a bend, don't break kind of thing. They play a lot of different kinds of zones. They can attack you up front. I think our linebacking core is a little bit stronger than theirs as it stands right now. But Matt Ryan, he has the ability to just kind of take whatever – he's going to take whatever the defense gives him. Yeah, will he make a mistake here and there? That's up to us to force it. But he can kind of dink and dunk and do what he needs to do. And when the big play's open, he can take it downfield. Calvin Ridley is going to be a nice little matchup. I think he's probably the best receiver that we face, probably outside of DJ Moore so far. In terms of route running, I think he's probably up there, maybe even past DJ Moore. So route running, Calvin Ridley, we're going to have to kind of watch. But the biggest piece is Cordarrelle Patterson. They're going to scheme up screen passes for Cordarrelle Patterson after watching what the Titans did in the screen game to us. It was every time they threw a screen, every time the Titans needed some yards, they went to it and they got it. Like they could do whatever they want, whether it was 3rd and 21, whether it was 3rd and 16, whatever it was. So Cordarrelle Patterson is an underrated athlete that is very hard to take down, especially in open space. He's a big, strong guy. So I expect to see them draw up some screen passes, and it's going to be up to us, Quincy Williams, C.J. Mosley, Quinnen Williams, those guys to kind of stop it. So not a very difficult thing to do because we want guys like Quinnen Williams to kind of just be able to pin his ears back and go, but he's got to also kind of recognize that screen game. So I think that's something that they're going to have to stop. And then the Jets, I just wrote down run game. So for kind of stat-wise, I did some research on Atlanta's defense. 32 points per game, 120 rushing yards per game, 265 passing yards per game, and they only have 7 sacks on the season total. So they're about way below average here.
Yeah, bottom half.
32
for sure.
points per game. It's bottom half, probably in the 20s for each statistical category there. But run game, I want to see them get the run game going. I don't want them to beat it to death, but I think they can get it going early. You think about it, Denver lets up like 50 to 70 rushing yards per game. They're in that range. And then Carolina, before their game against the Cowboys, they were like 40 yards per game. And the only team that we faced was the Patriots. They let up about 120 yards per game. And we were running the ball well against them. We just couldn't run it anymore because of the position we were in. So I wrote down run game, and then the second piece is just let Zach be Zach. He was comfortable with doing whatever he needed to do on Sunday. I felt like the first couple of weeks we kind of put him in a box, and we kind of let him loose on Sunday. So just let the kid be the kid. He's comfortable doing those kind of things. It's going to be frustrating at times, but there's going to be times where we get the lightning in a bottle like we did on Sunday. So those are my keys for kind of what each team is gonna kind of look to do for Sunday morning, which is going to be fun.
I'm going to get that as a tattoo. Let Zach be Zach. That's going to be my tattoo. I'm going to be like Rex Ryan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. I'll go because I would like to talk a little bit. None of the stuff that I'm going to say you guys said. So first half is a problem for this freaking team, man. 3 points so far through 4 games. I'm sorry, that's the first quarter. I apologize. It falls in the first half, so it's okay. Anyway, first quarter is a freaking issue. First half in general is an issue. We've been down at the end of every first half. I don't want that to continue in every single game. I don't want them to struggle coming out of the gates. I want to see them do some things in the first half and in the first quarter that maybe we haven't seen them do. I know a lot of fans will do this, but I know it's like a very rudimentary approach, but let's throw like a little bit of tricky stuff at them. Let's get a spark play. Let's get a big play going early on in the game. Doesn't have to be Zach Wilson dropping back and throwing it deep. Let's throw some stuff at them. Let's get some yards. Let's get some first downs. We have yet to create a turnover since the Sam Darnold fumble in the red zone in week 1. I believe that's true. So getting a turnover on defense, like you had talked about, James, Matt Ryan's still a very good quarterback. He can throw interceptions. He does turn the ball over. We need to force a turnover in this game. I think it would help a lot. And, in every game leading up to, coming up to the games, I've been either saying we will lose the game. I predicted a loss to the Pats and a loss to the Broncos. I predicted a win to the Panthers. And unfortunately, we weren't able to stream before the Titans game. I actually think we're gonna kick the shit out of these guys. I think we're actually gonna be surprised in the game that we play. I believe that. I'm pretty confident in that. I think that the running game will get going. I think Michael Carter and Tevin Coleman are going to have good games. I think that the passing game is going to look really good. They just lost their nickel cornerback, their starting nickel cornerback for the season. I'm not rooting for injuries or anything like that, but it's a factor in this game. I think Crowder is going to eat. And ultimately, I think we're going to get in Ryan's face. I think we're going to be able to stop the running game. Their running game does not scare me necessarily, although Cordarrelle Patterson, you did mention him. He is definitely an X factor. He can receive and he can rush the football. I have a lot of faith in our defense to be able to stop their run, to create third and long situations, just like the Tennessee game. So pass rush will... What the hell is that noise? Our pass rush will be there. I predict a win, man, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say 31-17 Jets. Ridley will definitely get some yards, I think. He's definitely a beast. But I am looking forward to seeing Hall cover him. I hope he gets, not necessarily every snap versus him, but I hope he gets the majority. And I do look forward to seeing him play against somebody as talented or maybe even more talented than DJ Moore. All right, we'll go to the chat, and then we will start to wrap this baby up. Ryan will try a lot of quick passes. They don't have the O-line that can hold up. And that's kind of my hope, is that we force them into those long third down situations where he's going to have to hold the ball, because then you're going to see the Jets get home. That's what really happened in that Tennessee game. They were in a lot of third and long situations. So force Matt Ryan to hold the football. I think that's where it's going to be really, really good for our defense. Christy Marie, she says, Will May be here next year? I don't think he will. Saleh seems to invest in the front seven and relies on pressure, coaching, and scheme to address the secondary. We did talk about it earlier. I don't think anybody, as of right now, thinks that May will be back, but it's not impossible. And you're right, front seven is definitely Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh, specifically the front lines as well. Joseph Grana, start the game in a 2-minute offense. I like this idea. I don't hate that at all. It doesn't mean that you have to come out and throw every play, but absolutely you can run a little no huddle. They did that, I think, in the third quarter, which is awesome. Run a little bit of no huddle. Don't just huddle up after every play. Excuse me. I agree. Get it going fast. If the defense plays like it did last Sunday, it can cover for first half's offense if they don't produce. Yes, and there's a good chance that the Jets don't come out, firing on all cylinders again, because that certainly has been the trend. I'm just real hopeful that it isn't. I don't think that it will, because I do think the running game is going to be improved, and I think that's what LaFleur has been really waiting on, is the running game to get going, because then I think he can show off who he is as a play caller. If Hall puts up another great game versus Ryan and Ridley, we may have a good cornerback one in him. I think at that point we know that he's an NFL dude. Like, he will be, excuse me, he belongs, I guess, if that's the way I would like to say it. Jet fan for life. This is another home game for us of sorts. Excuse me. A lot of Jets fans over the pond. All right, while I'm choking, I'm going to mute myself. I want predictions from you two. I said 31-17 Jets. James, you can go first. Go for it.
I'm going to go 30. You good? I'm going to go 34-21 Jets. I think the offense explodes, but they explode for more than just one half. And I think the defense, they'll give up some points here and there. But I think ultimately they come out on top in a 34-21 game.
I thought you said 40. I thought you said 41. I was like, whoa.
Oh,
James. So 34-21. That's a good score. I like that one. Mikey.
I'm going 28-17 Jets. I think it's gonna. I think the first half is gonna be a struggle for us. I think we're gonna be. I think we do better this game around. But I do think we really start to hit our stride again in the second half. I do think that Atlanta. This is. I gotta keep remembering it's a 9:30 a.m. game. I gotta keep remembering that for myself, because I'm actually kind of pumped up about that. It's great. Breakfast and football. What better way to start the day? So, it's an odd game, these London games, but they're also prime games. So I do think Atlanta tries to put some of the pieces together. They do end up scoring a bit. I think Patterson. I do think I think Pitts is going to find a game where he really starts to contribute, and for some reason, I think he might try to put some of those pieces together this time. However, I do think the Jets have momentum on their side. I do think that we continue to use the game plan that worked against the Titans. I think that's a strategy that's hard for any team to keep up with, given our speed and our youth. But I really think that the running game, I'm really expecting a big game out of Michael Carter. I will be okay if I see a big game out of Tevin Coleman, even though I'm not the biggest Tevin Coleman fan. If he can prove me wrong, I'll eat my words live at the next stream. But yeah, I think if that running game can really hit its stride, I think we win this game handsomely, and we carry. I think who was it in the locker room breakdown? You can't get to two wins until you get your first, and I think that has something to do with this.
That was your boy, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, that was just it was Hardy, baby. That's
I think it was Hardy. I'm not sure about
Justin
that.
Hardy. Yeah, it was. Yep.
Right.
So this was from literally the beginning of the stream. Grant Rude pointed out, Mike just alluded to it. It's football morning tonight. My liver is getting punished this Sunday. I am so excited to wake up, cook some breakfast, as Mike talked about, with my family. I also tweeted about that. There really is nothing better, man, than spending time with family and watching football on Sundays. It's a huge thing in our house, and I look forward to it, man. I don't know if we'll watch all of the games. I don't know if I'll sit there for, 12 hours. I would love to do that. But I am very, very excited to watch the game in the morning. My wife and I joked about it on Sunday last week because it was the first week I had been home to watch a game with her. And we get up early. Our daughter wakes up early, and she's up at like 6:30 in the morning. And it was like 10 o'clock, and we were like, holy shit, the game's on for another 3 hours. Like, what the hell? It felt like an eternity. It felt like the whole morning we had just been sitting there waiting for the game to start. So, all right, we got a couple more predictions in the chat. I'll read those, and then we will bid you all a good night. Vern, 27-17 Jets. Kev Chada is going to say 28-17 Atlanta. Okay, I can respect it. And listen, I'll say this before I read more of these predictions. If the Jets are competitive in this football game and they lose, I will be disappointed, but I will also be, and I think most Jets fans should be okay and understand that that's, a really, really good quarterback on that team. And they do have some pieces on their defense. Deion Jones. They also have a beast in the middle, pass rusher. I can't remember his name. But good players on the team. So if we lose, it will suck, but it is also understood. Jet fan for life, 30-23 Jets. Daniel Roberts says, didn't Atlanta play Washington tough? They absolutely did. Washington football team has a better defense than us. They might, but they might not. The Jets defense is really good. We're like in the top 10. About that. We're in the top 10 right now. And we have not played slouches on in this season. So I don't know, man. I think the Jets defense is starting to get noticed. I think it's going to be more noticed after this weekend. I think we're going to smack the Falcons around a little bit. I know we'll come back to earth at some point, but I think that we're going to smack them around. Christy Marie says 31-27 Jets win. Wilson 2 touchdown passes, 1 rushing touchdown, and an INT. That is something I meant to say earlier. I would like to see him throw no interceptions in this game. I know that's a tall ask, but I would really like to see him have a clean game. We'll see if it can happen, though. Grant Rude, Mr. Top 5 pick. He thinks the Jets are going to be picking in the top 5, so I'm going to keep busting his balls. But he says Jets are going to win 26-20 with a safety to end out the game and kill any chance of an Atlanta making a comeback.
Ooh, I like that.
I could see it happening. Washington football team was supposed to have a great defense, but through 4 games, they've been significantly worse than us per DVOA. Mike Galizia, he's now he's being the what the hell am I trying to say? The when you have like a belief, like if you wear too many shirts you're gonna lose, if you don't wear the right shirt. Superstitious. Thank you. He's thinking because we're all picking the Jets to win that the Jets are going to now lose. That could be the case. I still think they're going to win. Exactly. Reverse jinx. We're losing 50-0. Atlanta is favored 3.5 last time I saw as well. Emanon says 20-9 Pigeons. All right. I'm sorry, 20 Jets 20, Pigeons 9. And you are correct, Vern. He did slip and fall. If he hadn't, it was probably going to be an interception-free game. All right. I think that's it. Hope you guys enjoy the game this Sunday. Chad and I will be on Sunday night for the post-game show. And I will also let you know that there is unfortunately not going to be a Wednesday podcast next Wednesday. My wife, my daughter, and I, we're all going on a vacation for a couple of days, the three of us. And my goal is to try to do something on Friday night. I can't plan that yet because it's still too far away. But that's my goal. Hopefully no Wednesday podcast, but we'll move it to Friday night. I don't know. We'll see. I will keep you guys in the loop. I will post on Twitter, and I will also post in the community tab on the channel. Hope you guys have an awesome night. If you haven't hit the like button, please do that. And if you're watching this and you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. Mike, any last words?
No, enjoy your Sunday morning breakfast, everybody. Go Jets.
Have a rasher and a little crumpet with your tea. What do you got for me, James? Anything else you want to leave us off with?
No, it's kind of fun to be in good spirits going into a game. So enjoy the game. Have a morning beer or a few too as well. That's going to be a little kegs and eggs type of deal for the London game here. So enjoy the game and let's go Jets.
All right, boys. That's it. Go Jets. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you guys next time. Love and peace. Word from my daughter.